Yeah, in this episode, I did a Facebook Live with Nick James. Now, Nick James runs a couple of events a year, and this particular one we're talking about, it's called Business Empires. The previous one, he had Gary V there as the keynote, and this one that I went to, which is a few days after this, it was Lord Sugar was the keynote speaker. So if you follow me on Facebook, you'll see me doing some pounce interviews, as I do. Yeah, that went down quite well. But we talked to Nick about what the event's about and a bit about business. Please ignore the audio because obviously I've taken that straight from Facebook. We didn't do it in a studio, so it's not as good as it would have been if we'd have been face to face. But that was the rationale. We'd use Facebook to promote the event and promote what he was doing, what I was doing. It was great to talk to Nick. Please go and check him out. Seriously Fun Business on Facebook or on the internet. Just check him out and look out for the next event. So thanks for being a guest on the show, and I hope you enjoy it, people. So the purpose of today, as you know, I've got a radio station that I own.
What's it called? What's it called? Give it a little plug to the people that are watching live. DougieStoneRadio.com. So our website's still being built, but we're on TuneIn app. But you can go to the website and on the landing page, and you can listen there. So anyway, so I do a couple of shows. One is a country show that I do tonight that goes live to Australia, and the second one is I do a business show type show on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. And the aim with that, Nick, is I'm on a mission to change the perception of dyslexia, but in that process, I always also want to encourage dyslexics to become entrepreneurs because they make perfect entrepreneurs. Some of the best known entrepreneurs are famously dyslexic. Branson is the obvious one.
Yeah, and I researched at 44 hours to university, Coventry University, and did a master's degree in global entrepreneurship. And that's what I researched, are dyslexics predisposed entrepreneurs. So that's what I'm on the mission for. And that's why I want to interview people that are at a level that people can understand and get to. So we talk about Richard Branson, we talk about Lord Sugar, we talk about those high-flying individuals that not everyone's going to get to. So it's like if you go to the park now, there'll be some kids playing football who'll be really good, but they're not going to end up in a Premier team, but they'll do the best that they can do.
Yeah.
So the aim of this show that I do is to speak to people like yourself and other people about where they come from, you know, because obviously you've got your own business and you're not working for somebody else, and there's got to be a reason for that and why you've done that. And I also want to show people that where that journey's gone and how you've got there, and actually it is achievable if you've got the right ingredients, really.
Sure.
So that's the purpose of it.
All right, let's crack on. Let's do it.
So yeah, so where have you come from? So you obviously your business. You talk about your business currently, what your business is, and then how you actually got to that point.
Yeah, for sure. So currently I run an events company primarily. So we do seminars and workshops for small business owners, mostly coaches, consultants, speakers, trainers, authors, people in the expert space, and teach them sales and marketing, how they can fill their events, how they can grow their databases, how they can increase their sales and revenue and profit. So it's effectively business training for the expert crowd. And then twice a year, we do a larger, kind of like more of a conference, which is, we do 2 a year. One's for the expert industry, one's small businesses in general, where we have 500, 600, 700 people that attend that. And we have lots of different speakers from all over the world who provide inspiration and education for the attendees.
Oh, cool. And I think because it's important that there's these places for people to go to. So what did you do before that? What was you in corporate world, or have you just become
my corporate career lasted a grand total of 9 months, where I came. It was actually a placement while I was at university studying business. I did a placement at the West Bromwich Building Society. No disrespect to the West Brom Building Society, I love them. Great building society, not where I wanted to end up working. So I got 9 months into my 12-month placement and just went, yeah, this isn't for me. So I left West Brom, which in turn also meant that I left my degree as well without graduating. But found an opportunity to go and work for a very entrepreneurial company. So even though it was a job, it wasn't in corporate. It was more closely linked to where I saw myself going. And so the guy, Andy Harrington, I always give him a shout out, the guy that owned that company and gave me my first opportunity, trained me in sales, trained me in speaking. And that was a really good opportunity for me and taught me a lot of lessons, which then allowed me to go and start my own business. So my first real business was a copywriting agency. So we would create sales letters and email campaigns and marketing materials for small business owners. It was a time for money business, but still it wasn't working in a corporate job or for somebody else. So did okay at that. Made some money, decent full-time income, up until the point where I realised that it was time for money, which means you're going to hit a ceiling. The model was a bit flawed, even though it gave me an okay lifestyle. I was still, in order to grow the business, there wasn't really any scalability in it. So what I did was started taking the expertise that I'd managed to get from people like Andy and others, and instead of providing it as a service, as a consultant to clients, I would teach in a classroom setting. So first event, 2009, we had 8 people in the room at the first ever one.
Better than none.
Well, yeah, a lot better than none. And and they each paid $2,000 the ticket for 4 days. So did okay off that event, and then it just became a scaling thing, because the beauty of the classroom environment was I could scale it up. I could then go from 8 to 15 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50. Like I said, now we have 500, 600, 700 people regularly at our seminars and workshops, which is of course a much more scalable model. And of course, along with that, has created a lot of opportunities for me to meet and work with some pretty amazing people, and also generate a 7-figure annual sales number.
Yeah, that's you made a couple of good points there, because it's like myself. I've got a lot of people out there with businesses. You've got a lot of knowledge yourself, and you can go and do some consultancy, or you can work for a per hour rate.
And that's not a bad first step. Like we were speaking earlier, Kirk, about like starting from scratch. Let's say you're in corporate, you want to get out, or you're in any job and you're going, I want to get out. The worst thing you could possibly do, in my opinion, is then try and start like a 7 or 8 figure company from where you are, because that's why the stat, whatever it is now, 90% of businesses fail, because people are trying to run before they can walk. The best thing you can possibly do, I think, and this is only my opinion, I'm sure others would disagree, but if you start a business from scratch and you just have the goal of creating a full-time income for yourself initially, no staff, no office, no overheads, just get to the point where you're making a full-time income, focus on sales and marketing. That's a good start. And then from there, from that platform, you can then go, okay, now can we get to the point where we're doing 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, maybe start to take on 1 or 2 staff, start to grow and scale. And I think if you do it that way, that's how I've done it 3 times now, by the way. Even this business right now is only 2.5 years old. I started with the basics, with no office, no overheads, and I went, right, how do I get from 0 to the point where we're making 10 grand a month? We managed to do that very quickly, because obviously I had a lot of experience, but still, that was my goal to start with. Managed to do it within the first month, and then, right, okay, now let's look at getting an office. Now we've got that platform to build on. But I think the mistake a lot of people make, and it's, I guess, in the past, I've probably been guilty of being part of this problem, is a lot of these events that you might go to, they teach you the 7, the 8 figure strategies. But if you're starting from scratch, that's no use to you. So what I tend to do now, and like my keynote presentation that I give at our annual event, or that I will be giving at our annual event next week, is how do you go from 0, standing start, from scratch, to the point where you're making full-time income? Then how do you go from full-time income to 6 figures? And how do you go from 6 figures to 7 figures? And do it in that order and sequence, rather than trying to jump a step. Because if you jump a step, normally that's when people struggle, end up going broke, have cash flow problems, because no one ever teaches you how to manage that. And it's much easier to manage the cash flow with a very small business where you've got a small number of clients. If you're the first time you've ever done it, if you're trying to manage the cash flow of a multi 7-figure business, the likelihood of you succeeding at that's pretty slim.
No, yeah, I perfectly agree, because you do need those steps. And flicking it back to the radio station, we set the station up within a week, and the only reason I could set it up in a week is because I've got a corporate background behind me for 20 odd years. I knew what I needed. I had the contacts, I had the network to put together. So you're right, and going. A lot of people want to start a business. And I'm on podcast versions on the younger generation, but they see the celebrities, they see the instant fame or the instant wealth they believe from people on celebrity programs or reality TV, and they see the football stars and they think, oh well, actually I'm going to leave school or university and I'm going to go from here, working behind the bar pulling pints to make ends meet, and I'm going to have this multi-million-pound business. And I think you make a really valid point. Someone's commented on there that is, those steps are so important. You need to have made the mistakes. You're better off making mistakes with a couple of £100 coming in than a couple of grand coming in or a couple of million coming in, and that doesn't get paid. Then you're in deep water, and you need to learn, don't you? It's that experience to get you to that. You've been able to start another business and quite quickly go from 0 to 10k a month, which is phenomenal, because you've done it before. You know the steps, you know what to do, you know what you're not.
Well, and I already had a client base, I already had a reputation in the industry, all those things. But yeah, I think to underline the point, the best decision I ever made was to go and work for an entrepreneurial business first, because I got to see firsthand, up close and personal, what it took to be successful. By the way, the guy, it was a relatively new business, relatively young business, but he'd already had a multi-million-pound company of his own. So he had credibility and experience as an entrepreneur. So I could see up close and personal what it took to be successful, what the pitfalls were. I also learned from observing a lot of mistakes in that business as well, which I think has put me in relatively good stead to be successful. That's not to say it's always been plain sailing. I've made loads of mistakes. I've made more mistakes than I've had successes. But at the same time, I think that if there was somebody young, somebody who's at university or college or just graduated, or somebody who's young and in a corporate career and looking to get out and become an entrepreneur and have their own business, the first thing I would recommend personally, from my experience, is to go and work for a small entrepreneurial organisation for like a year. I was there 18 months. It was the best thing I ever did. We've got in our team, those are the kind of people we tend to hire. So we've got a youngish guy. Well, he's young compared to me. He's 23, I think, 22, 23 years of age in our office. It's recently started, last couple of months. And the reason he's there is he wants to learn. But my thinking is, if I can get somebody who's entrepreneurial and driven and hungry to work with me for a year or two, then that's going to give massive value to my company. And of course, at the same time, he's going to learn a lot of valuable lessons. And at the end of a year or so, then, hopefully he'll be ready to fly the nest, as it were, and go and do it on his own.
Yeah, and that's a good thing as well, because a lot of people get precious about. Even in my corporate roles in the past, when I worked for businesses, I always tried to develop people, and you're doing this. It sounds like you're doing the same with your people that are coming on for experience. I tried to get people or train them to a level so that they left my team. Do you know what I mean? They were good enough to move on, and I think that's what you need, because you need that. You need people still coming. You need people to come through your business or your organisation. But not only that, you're not stagnating anybody then. And then those people that work for you or have done 2 years with you, I mean, in 10 years' time, and they become successful, or 5 years' time, whatever, then you're naturally now creating your own network of successful business owners that will have a link with you on a personal and business level, and more inclined to do collaborative projects with you. With no, I don't know if you found that yet, because obviously a lot
of my former employees are now successful multi-six-figure business owners, and we collaborate because, of course, there's a depth of relationship and connection there. From originally where we started out when they were working for me, and I still collaborate with Andy, who of course gave me an opportunity. So when I think back, I go, the opportunity that Andy gave me has filtered down many times on many different levels. Because not only do I collaborate with him, but also, of course, I'm now able to collaborate with former employees of mine who are now successful business owners in their own right.
Yeah, no, that's good. So where do you see the current business growing? Because they always say when they try and teach you something, always have an exit strategy. So even though you're starting a business, do you have an exit strategy for the business going forward to get rid of it, or you just manage it to a point where when you decide that it's gonna, you're gonna either stop it or move it or sell it on?
Yeah, it's a good question. In our industry, exit strategies are an interesting question, and the reason is because most businesses I call it our industry, the kind of expert space where you're the speaker, the face of it, the expert, as it were, are pretty unsellable, quite frankly.
Because it's you.
Yeah, I did successfully sell a former business of mine that was pretty much based on me previously, but it's rare that it's possible to do that. That said, my opinion is that when you're building from the ground up, it's actually, I think, easier if you're building the business around you, because if you're the expert, it's much easier to sell. Come to my seminar or workshop, have coaching, mentoring with me. Attend the mastermind that I chair, so because people want to buy you, so it's easier to build it, but then of course it's nigh impossible to sell. So my opinion, and where the plan, or where I'm going right now is, we're still relatively young. We're 2.5 years in. We're just tipped over 7 figures in sales in terms of annual revenue, but we're not yet at the point where I can completely take myself out of the business. That's next phase really would be to start to make it less reliant upon me, so that then I've got choice. Now, for the record, I'm happy to go on record saying I have no intention of selling or exiting our company at all. Now, however, isn't it nice to have the choice whereby you can either sell, exit, cash in your chips and do something completely different if that's what you want to do, or at least have the freedom where you don't have to be there every day. So a lot of people that I'm connected with, Rob Moore is one in particular, who's actually speaking at our event next week. And Rob's done a terrific job of starting a business he was the face of it, building it to the point and scaling it to a point and using a strategy whereby it didn't rely upon him every single day. Yeah. So that now, I mean, he says, I interviewed him not so long ago, and he was like, look, I never go to the office. I'm rarely there. I'm not at that stage yet. I'm at the office most days, running things day to day. But I do think for me, it's important to build it with the intention of making it not reliant upon me. I mean, the whole thing is just more stable if it's not reliant upon me as well. What if I, God forbid, get sick or have an accident or whatever, it happens to a good friend of mine a few years back, and the whole business grounds to a halt. So I think it's smart to make the business not reliant upon you for a few reasons. One, it makes it more stable. Two, it gives you a choice later down the line whether you might want to exit or at least step back from the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, because when you start your business, we've all been there, you're actually doing everything. It's almost like this old saying, in it, you can't see the wood for the trees. You're in the business, you're doing the finances, you're doing everything, you're doing every role that you would have people for. And then as you get people, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners struggle to release the reins of that business to let it run because they're scared it's going to happen. But
my opinion, Kirk, is to begin with, that's absolutely what you should be doing. You should be financial, sales and marketing, customer service. Like, to start with, when you're trying to get the thing off the ground, you probably are going to be doing all those things, and you should do all those things. You just highlighted the challenge, though. Then how do you scale? You have to be willing to take a step back from some of those areas. My advice is always step back from the area that you're weakest in. So for me, the first thing I relinquished control over was the organising and the customer service, because I'm not historically a very good organised person. But I always kept a firm hand on sales and marketing, because that's where my skill set is. So I think you've got to start to step back one piece at a time and start with the pieces that you're least qualified to do. But the other thing is, there's always going to be, I think, as a business owner, we are the best business owners, the best entrepreneurs probably are control freaks. We're all the same. And so I'm definitely the same as well. So like for me, relinquishing control is an important step in scaling, because if it's always reliant upon you, you're never going to get past, in my experience, if you're the only person that can do anything, you're never going to get past the low 6-figure mark in terms of sales in your business. So if you want to get to multi 6, 7 figures plus, then you've got to relinquish a bit of control. And sometimes that means that you have to accept that somebody else is going to do something that you would not have done, or that they're doing a job not as well as you would do it. But that's the only way to scale. And of course, the skill really for me is, can you get other people in that can do things better than you? So like, I've got a team of people now. I've got a girl in particular who manages customer services, event management, all of that kind of stuff, and she's epic. She does that job way better than I ever could, without a shadow of a doubt. So I think, doing that first, and then, but you will need to, if I look at Rob as a great model for this, completely relinquish control of pretty much everything. I mean, he just kind of chairs the company now. He's not really involved in the day to day, which is, where my aspiration would be to get to that stage.
Yeah, but because the other thing with that relinquishing control is, instead of being in the business, that's what I was trying to say before, instead of having to do, we know you have to do all those things when you start, because you're time rich, but you're cash, short potentially. So, but you get to a point where you need to step back, because for your business to grow and keep away from your competition or come up with new concepts, the entrepreneur, like as in yourself, needs to have a holistic view of the business and see it from above, rather than going, well, that marketing is not very good, we could improve that, what's happening there? But if you're actually doing those roles, you're potentially not going to see it. So yeah, as you grow and you get to the point where you can step back and look at the business in more detail, and you've got the team around you, might need to bring different, because people that you have in a particular role, say now, in 12, 18 months, 2 years time, as your business changes and goes into different markets or does different things, they might not be the right person in that role, but you might have to put them into a different role or whatever. So I think there's a transition from a business, isn't there? There's a life cycle of a business that starts doing X, unless you've been given a few £1 million like your dad, like Donald Trump did, and he started his business. Unless you've got that luxury of a lot of cash, and that's not always a good thing, because you've not made. I
want to jump on that. I want to jump on that now. I believe, personal opinion, not everyone will agree, that starting a business with a load of cash is sometimes like a disadvantage, because often when people have got a load of cash to play with, they get a bit loose with it. If you haven't got any cash, you can't be loose with it, because you haven't got anything to be loose with. So like, I've never had, whenever I've started a business, a large pot of cash. I've always had to bootstrap it and start from zero. And I think that's caused me to be a lot more savvy and a lot more careful at managing the financials, because I've had to. And actually that puts you in pretty good position for when you are dealing with bigger numbers, and you're dealing with, hundreds of thousands of pounds at any given time that you've got cash that you're dealing with. It means you're going to be a lot more, frankly, a lot more tight, a lot more, a lot more clever with it, which allows you to grow a business much more quickly. Because if you get loose with the cash, that's that generally is what causes businesses to fail. It's rarely anything other than running out of cash. Rarely. Yeah,
most businesses fail because it's a cash flow problem, isn't it? Some of the most profitable businesses in the world go under because their outgoings could go out before their incomings go, and they go, oh, we're bankrupt.
Well, and that's where I think there's just a severe lack of education for business owners. No one ever taught me how to manage cash. And so consequently, in my early days in business, it was always feast and famine. I'd either have a load of cash in the bank and then I'd get all excited and spend it, or I'd have zero cash in the bank and wonder where the hell it all went. And the reason that happened is because no one ever taught me how to manage the cash flow of a business. And I realised that was such a weakness of mine, understanding the financials. Because like at uni, they taught us about balance sheets and they taught us about P&Ls but they were using big companies as examples. That's no use to me when I'm starting. I just need to make sure that I'm not going to run out of money. So I invested, and this is a resource that I'd recommend for anybody. I attended a 4-day course with Keith Cunningham called the 4-day MBA. And it's not cheap, but it was the best investment I ever made. And, that I think, that was probably a few years back now that I went to that course. And it's really given me the platform and the financial understanding to make sure that I can manage a business that's, that's grown quite significantly and quite quickly as well at the same time. Because before that, I was winging it. Before that, I was absolutely winging it, and it was a miracle that I never went broke.
Because I think you made the point right at the start. Really, best advice is for people to go and work in entrepreneur business. So, those it's a bit like kids leaving school, isn't it? Forget uni, but leaving schools. Yes, they've got all this tech book knowledge, but no one's telling them how to live in the real world, how you interact with people. Do you know what I mean? They're not teaching them life skills.
Yeah.
They have to learn them. You learn them from hard knocks, don't you? So the fact that you go into a business like yourself as an intern, or whatever you want to call it, or a new entrepreneur, that way you're going to pick up those skills from the likes you say, listen, you need to watch that, you need to watch this, and where's that cash coming from, and these are our credit terms that you don't get to understand from because they can only teach a high level really at uni, can't you, unless you're doing something specific on finance.
And then the other thing I'd say as well, if you are going to go into an entrepreneurial business to learn, that I really think the best skill you could possibly learn if you're about to start your own business is sales. Like, if you can't sell, you're screwed, quite frankly, because that's like day one, you're going to start, you're going to set up. And the big mistake people make when they start a new business is they think that the setup of the business is the website, the business cards, establishing the limited company, any of that. You need customers and cash. So the first thing I did, I mean, like, I didn't even have a website when I started. I've never had, to this day, I've never had business cards, ever. I just don't think they're worth it. And I think it also causes people to be lazy and go to networking meetings and pass out a load of cards that are going to end up in the bin, thinking that that's lead generation. That ain't lead generation. Lead generation is attracting people in who are likely to buy your products and services. So the first thing, I worked for Andy for 18 months, initially purely in sales. Then it evolved to a sales with marketing role. And those two skills, I think, for any business owner starting out, like, if you're naturally good at sales, you get out and start selling. That'd be the first. You could start tomorrow. If you're not naturally good at sales, then either seek out somebody like I did. I'd never sold anything in my life. I went and worked for Andy for 18 months and I learned on the job. I had world-class training of how to connect with people, how to sell. I learned a lot about marketing as well, which meant when I started up on my own, day one, go out and sell some stuff. And I'd recommend that as the first step for anybody. If you're not naturally good at sales, by the way, and it is a teachable skill, but there's some people that are, of course, got a personality or they're naturally more likely to be a strong salesperson. If that's not you, I think at least learn the basics, but then that would be the first hire that you would look to make. Or for example, if you were going to be in a business partnership with somebody else, look for somebody that's got that skill set to complement yours. A lot of business partnerships, I think, especially with new startups, they're born out of a lack of confidence for anybody to do it on their own. And in actual fact, oftentimes you see two business partners and they've got the same skill set. And I'm like, well, what the hell's the point in this partnership? All this means is you've got somebody else to blame when it doesn't work. And consequently, also what happens is there's often a lot of fallouts and stuff. I wouldn't go into a business partnership unless you've got skills that complement one another. I mentioned Rob Moore earlier. Him and his business partner, Mark Homer, are the perfect example of this. They're the only business partners that I've been in this world a while now. You know, I'm 10, 12 years in business, and I've only ever seen, they're the only business partnership I've ever seen that's lasted the course, because Rob is like completely the opposite to Mark. They balance each other out really well. But if you've got two people that are the same, if you think about it, the business needs to perform twice as well in order for you to get the same net result if there's two of you together. So for me, it just doesn't make sense to go into partnership unless if you're really weak in one area and the other person's really strong in that area, it might make a really good match. But 9 times out of 10, I just don't see the point in partnerships. I really think that you could get a better overall result just doing it on your own. So back yourself. Stop looking for somebody else to have as a crutch to rely upon, and just back yourself and go out and do it.
I totally agree, because I'd struggle with. There's a cards. I was going to look at doing a partnership, but then I realised it wouldn't work. And even to the point where you're saying about being control freaks, it's not even just being like an entrepreneur wants to be controlled, but it's not only that. It's then when you have a difference of opinion for a simple matter of. I mean, we set the radio station up in a short space of time, and I had the similar sort of things that you're talking about. Oh, your website's not ready, so people can still get us. That we've got a landing page, and they can listen to the radio station. We've got tuning player. if we're 80% right, we're going. I'm not waiting until we're 100% right, because we could be waiting 6-12 months. And if my brother's watching, you probably realise my brother was going to come in partnership with me on the radio station. I said, no, I don't want you as a partner, because we'll end up falling out. And even he was even picking the name for the station. And I said what I wanted to call it. He's like, well, I'm not sure about that. And I went, that's why I don't want a business partner.
Well, and actually, if you're going to have somebody who's a business partner, always have clearly defined roles, whereby, so for example, I had a relatively successful business partnership. It ran its course. It was all good. And the guy that I was in partnership with, Dan, he had skills in other areas to me. So we basically decided, look, Nick's all about sales and marketing and people. That's where Nick's really good. So I focus purely on sales and marketing and people. If there was ever a people decision to be made, hiring, firing, it came down to me. I had complete autonomy over that side of the business. Dan, very good on more strategic thinking, high level partnerships, on the financial side, on, he was like all over the spreadsheets and the numbers. And so I just went, look, if it's ever a numbers decision, I defer to his expertise in that area. So I think if you're going to have a partnership, first of all, make sure that you've got complementary skills, not the same skill set, because that's unnecessary to be in a partnership, and just have clear boundaries and definitions. So for example, the name of the radio station for you, if you identified before, you're the person that makes all calls on marketing and branding, and he's the person that makes all calls on whatever other area of the business, then you're cool. Because then you're not going to get, then you're not going to have any conflict then. So I think it's just, if you're going to have a partnership, make sure you've got clearly defined roles and expertise, so that you can have ownership of certain decisions, so there's never any conflict.
Really good points. Really good points. I'm quite well. We're all right. We've 35 minutes. We could talk. I could talk all day.
We could be here all day, but I don't think we can be. So great.
No.
Let's wrap this thing.
Obviously, you talked about your business, what you're doing, because your event's coming up this week, isn't it? So this Thursday, Friday. And,
Business Empires, 9th and 10th of November. Business Empires, 9th and 10th of November at Heathrow. Epic lineup. We got Lord Sugar as the headliner. Hasn't appeared at an event like this in 4 or 5 years. We got Rob Moore, multi-millionaire property investor, and he's got multiple different businesses. So he's going to come and talk about how he's built and scaled. Not talking about property. He's going to talk about how he's built and scaled his companies to the point where they're doing tens of millions of pounds a year. We've also got Shah Wasmond, MBE. That's a much more kind of like, how can you get started using Facebook groups and build an audience? So that could be a really good strategy for a new business or a startup or somebody that's in their infancy. Brilliant. Equally as good, by the way, if you're a big company, you should be using Facebook groups to build your audience, and then how do you monetize that? We've got Mike Koenig's coming over from the States. He's talking about more about how you can make your message become the celebrity in your field, get your message watched, read, listened to, broadcast on every different platform, on every different device you could possibly think of. So he's talking about more of the marketing of your personal brand. So we've got some epic speakers. It's going to be a great event. As with all of my events, most of the speakers have nothing to sell at all. Not a free event. So, you're paid to come in because you're going to get high value, lots of content over 2 days, rather than just back-to-back pitch fest.
Yeah, it sounds that, I mean, just those things. So just to understand it, the 2 days are not the same day repeated. The 2 days. No, correct.
It's a 2-day conference. So we've got lots of different speakers appearing over the course of the 2 days. We've got we do a party on the Thursday evening, which, I mean, not only have we got great speakers, but the big opportunity. One thing I talk a lot about is, and I attribute a lot of my success to, is that I put myself in the environment consistently and have done for the last 10 plus years. So I attend a lot of events. Even now, I spend a lot of time, a lot of money going to the States, going all over, attending events to put myself around the right people. So I think whilst the speakers that you'll be learning from have got a lot of expertise, a lot of value to share, there's also a lot of value to be had with the relationships, the partnerships that can be created. And of course, we deliberately build an environment with the party on the Thursday evening, lots of opportunities for connecting and partnering. So we build an environment to make that more likely.
Because that's important, that two-way interaction with people. I talked about business cards before. Well, there's been business cards, but you need that true networking where you talk to someone else, you get to understand them. Oh yeah, I can get on with you. We could work together. Oh no, I don't think we could, and all that. I think it's brilliant. it's the only way. It's the only way to actually interact. It's the only way to.
For me as well, Kurt, it's not just. I mean, I don't tend to use the term networking at all personally, and the reason is because I hate networking. I never go to a networking event or meeting or anything. But for me, it's the problem with networking. It's very surface level. It's like, what do you do? Here's what I do. What do you do? Here's what I do. Let's share business cards. It's very surface level. Like for me, the best partnerships that I've got, and I've got many, have all been created through real depth of like really hanging out and getting to know one another, not just not for half an hour at a breakfast meeting and you talk about what your business does, but really get to know one another at a deeper level. And I think that happens when you spend a couple of days around people and you kick back and have a drink at the bar, have a bite to eat together. That's where the depth. Give me 10 really good deep business relationships over 1,000 surface level, swap business cards at a networking meeting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that's what I called it. But yeah, that one-on-one interaction is perfect. And it's the best way to grow a relationship and future business or whatever, or even just friendship. I mean, that's going to be a really good session, I should imagine. So, can people still get tickets? And if they can, where do they get tickets from? What's the best place to?
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously we're a few days out now, so if people still want to get tickets, best thing to do is comment under Facebook Live here. If you listen to the radio show, just give us a call in the office. So the number is 0121 667 4502. I'll repeat it. It's 0121 667 4502. I'm now questioning whether that's the right number because I never give it out. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Get onto businessempires.co.uk is the website where you can get all the information. But for last minute tickets, phone us in the office. Comment under the Facebook Live here. If you'd like to speak to somebody, we've got a few guys, Pete, Tom, Sam, Jay in the office that can pick up the phone and have a chat with you, tell you what's what, and talk to you about all the different ticket options that are available.
Yeah, and if any, because obviously my Facebook followers are on here as well, and might not be. If you get hold of me, I can hook you up as well. So if there's any of my friends that want to know about it, give me a shout, and I'll hook you up with Nick and Rob, and we'll get you sorted with tickets or whenever the next event is. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. It's been great, even though we had a bit of a tech issue at the start, which is technology is brilliant, isn't it? And never allowing tech. So I'm looking at. I know you're going to have a great event, and it sounds you've got a great lineup, and what you're doing to help people is good as well. And I'm sure people will go away. I know a guy who's going again this year, went last year, and I know he got a lot out of it last year. So
great.
I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome and getting back to you after the event.
Thanks, Kurt. Well, thanks for joining me and thanks for interviewing me. I appreciate it, and I will see you soon.
No problem. And I'm going to put this on the radio station tomorrow at 10 a.m. on my business show, so it'll be on there on Dougie Stone Radio. A bit of a plug for me, Dougie Stone Radio.
Yeah, pop the link in the comments as well, so people can tune in.
I will do. Yeah, will do. Thanks very much. Thanks
Cheers,
for your time.
Take care. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, I have got to say that event was pretty outstanding. I had a great time. Met a guy called Brandon Block. If you don't know, he's go and search him on the internet. Really big in the Ibiza scene back in the 90s. Brilliant guy, and spent 2 days with us. I also spent 2 days with Todd from Spaghetti Agency. Go and check him out. Awesome guy, really good friend of mine. But yeah, I came away with some really good nuggets from those 2 days. I'd highly recommend it to anyone to attend. The speakers are phenomenal. The whole event is brilliant. After the first day, my head was seriously mashed in for all the information that I took. I was in bed for 9:30. I was shattered, even though there was a nice party on as well. So I'd seriously go and check those events out. Seriously Fun Business and Nick James, thanks very much for being on the show. Thanks for hosting me and thanks for promoting me at the event. It was really good and I had a bit of a ball, and there was lots of people there. I know I took a lot away from the event. So thanks very much. Thanks for listening. If you want to know a bit more about me, why not go on to Dougie Stone Radio on Facebook? If you're listening to this up on the podcast, then please like, subscribe and share. We've got a radio station, which is Dougie Stone Radio. It is we should have, by the time you're listening to this, we should have our own apps. But if you go to Dougie Stone on the Facebook page, Dougie Stone Radio, you can listen live on there. There's a link on the left-hand side that says listen live. You can go to dougiestoneradio.com, listen from there, or on the TuneIn app, just search Dougie Stone Radio, or on the Streamer app, and you can find us all over the place. We've got listeners from all over the globe, and it's just been a wonderful experience so far. And as I was recording this, we're in week 3, and we've gone past 10,000 listeners, which is phenomenal, seeing that we're a brand new station and no one knew about us before. We've got listeners from around the planet. We've got presenters in Australia, we've got presenters in Argentina and in the UK. So we're a truly global station. So please support us if you can. Please share it. Just give us a listen and see what you think. But until next time, it's goodbye from me. And as I always say, see ya.